listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
All right, we're here on a nice chilly day with Jennifer Woods, who's probably used to this.
Oh my gosh, everybody's complaining, and I'm like, it's finally my weather, so stop. Give me my 2 days.
Yes, I know. You Northerners are used to this. This is a day in May for y'all, and I was texting my buddy Grant up in Minneapolis, and he's like,
it's cold there right now. It's miserable.
Minus 10 or something like that, and it just is ridiculous. I said, don't you want to move back to Texas? No, not so much.
Really?
Well, let's just say that the atmosphere of Minnesota in many ways suits him better in some way.
Got it.
And he's also near his grandchildren, so that's a big plus right there.
Minnesota gets a bad rap, and the state itself is just amazing.
I heard the state's really beautiful, but I can tell you my opinion of Minnesota in 2 words. Tim Walz. Anyway, that's the governor.
Oh, I know who it is.
Okay, good. I thought, all right, anyway, let's get off to politics. Holy cow, I did that on Tuesday, and it should be out of my system for a little while. Anyway, we're going to talk about end-of-life planning, aren't we?
Yes.
A lot of people neglect that.
Yes.
A lot of young people neglect that, and they think, I'll use my children as examples. I told them I'm getting them Legal Shield for, so they could have some legal representation and take care of these kind of things. And they're like, I'm 32. I don't need this. I'm like, oh, really? I've co-signed your notes for school, buddy. You need this. So we'll talk about that and how all this Roots and Reflections, all this kind of ties into your business. But we're going to go through the sponsors because they make all this possible. Makes the magic work. Okay, thank you, Otto, over at our place. Get yourself a nice warm comfort food. This kind of weather just screams out chicken fried steak with gravy and taters. You know what I'm saying? It's that kind of heavy duty food that just warms you up and helps you take a nap later and that kind of thing. Gives you a food coma. Anyway, that's a good thing. Our place restaurant is going to be open regardless, because like you, Otto is another Northerner, another carpetbagger. And so.
Carpetbagger? Okay, I literally don't know that.
Well, see, it's a Southern historical term for Yankees that moved down from the north to come make a living here in the South.
We have to have this. I'm sorry, I know, Otto. Yeah. We're not Yankees. Mm-hmm. We're from the upper Midwest.
Upper Midwest, okay.
And it's very different. That's all I got.
Which side of the war were y'all on? I forget.
Doesn't matter. We don't talk about it up there like y'all do down here, so.
Well,
I mean, I've been here for 28 years now, but still, y'all.
Y'all. Okay, you're getting there, huh? All right, but also Gina's is a good place to go to. Get you a pizza or some pasta. Stick to your ribs in this good cold weather. Get yourself. I like that place a lot. Cause get yourself some pasta or get you a pizza and a beer and watch the game or whatever. Back in the summer, I watched a lot of Ranger games there because I didn't get it. Now I don't know if I have a chance. I think there's a new app for it, Ranger games and such. Victory Plus, yeah. I think it's the same app.
It's going to be like $8 million?
I think it's like $100 a year, which I know it sounds
Remember when we used to be able to watch it on TV?
Back in the day.
When things were free?
Yeah. Nothing's free, but
okay, sorry.
All right, anyway, back to the next sponsor
We love you, Otto.
Yes, Wild Cigar and Culture. Yeah, it's a good time to go and get yourself a nice cigar and keep you warm. They got a great humidor. Sorry. I see other larger stores that have humidors. That's all great, but they don't have the experts that run it. And that's what you get with Wild Cigar. You get people that know tobacco, know cigars, and get rid of what's in his throat. Anyway, what I like about them is that, I walk in there and I'm kind of a newbie on cigars and they'll hold my hand and say, here's what you want, and it's not, they don't direct me to the highest dollar. They say, what kind of experience do you want? What kind of taste? What kind of aftertaste do you want? And I'll try to describe it in my limited vocabulary, and they'll try to work around that. So it's a great place.
Did we all just hear that Brad said he had a limited vocabulary?
I talk about cigars.
Oh, okay.
Other things, I'm very erudite. Thank you very much. I'm articulate and erudite.
I don't even know what erudite means.
It means I talk good. Anyway, Old Pro Roofing. Thank you, John. 817-734-2756. Get your roof inspected, guys, because spring is going to come sooner or later, and we're going to have storms. And you find out, I need a roof now, and it's leaking through the roof. It's a bad thing. This happened to me about 2.5 years ago. We had a really bad storm. It was in August of all months. And I found out that the flashing on my chimney was leaving a small gap, and all it takes is a small gap. And John comes up and does the inspections, and we can hammer that together, no problem. But the rest of your roof is fine. And so he didn't try to upsell you. Oh my Lord, you need a new roof. Doom is coming, whatnot. So anyway, 817-734-2756. Also, thank you to your friend Jeff Kelly. You know him well, right? He's right down the street from you.
Across the street.
Across the street, and that's even closer. He was on the show about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about interest rates and growth in Johnson County, because he does more than just Burleson. He does a lot of sales in this whole area of Johnson County, because as much as we're growing, Joshua and Godley are growing just as fast, if not faster. Same with Grandview. I don't know about Alvarado so much.
It is.
It is, okay. Mm-hmm. I don't have the connections there, so to speak.
A lot of new developments.
Yeah, they are. Well, call him at 817-781-0546 or at email jeff@jeffkellyrealty.com.
I can tell you that Jeff is really great. I mean, he's a quality person with integrity and really knows what he's talking about.
Well,
and I've gotten to know him as my neighbor, and I've been really surprised at how giving and just a great guy he is.
Well, and I didn't meet him. I never met him until he contacted me on direct message about, I want to sponsor your show. So I'd never met him. And so normally, unless we know mutual people that can vouch for him, I want to meet the guy first. We had same friends, so that was no problem. So he became a sponsor, and then afterwards we met meet routinely, and he's very good company, We met earlier this month over at Gina's, and it was a very pleasant evening. So it was good. It was a good time. And also our friends Michelle over at Hot Works and her crew of young ladies. Get yourself a infrared workout. It's less stress on the muscles and joints, and 11 different opportunities, different activities. It's 24/7 with secure entry and things of that nature. And so it's a good time to do some indoor workouts in this cold weather. Well, the thing about it is, what I like about Hot Works is not just the opportunities that they have, all these different activities, but also, they have staff there that can tell you what you want. And you walk in there and said, well, I need to work on this, or I'm having these kind of back pain kind of things. I want to work on my flexibility. And they know what to tell you. I mean, they're not just, here's a booth and I'm doing my nails. They know what they're talking about. So it's a good place to get some advice, that kind of thing. Also, Local Life Magazine, the Wethington Agency's on it, which is where Jeff is part of, and also a friend, Shandy Stockstill, who's, by the way, got a big Re-Inspire event coming up in early April that I'll probably start talking about next week, but there you go. But Local Life Magazine goes to 30,000 homes, and last time I was getting my oil changed, I had several copies on the coffee table, and so it gets a lot of looks, to say the least. So call Tiffany Griffin, and she'll hook you right up. And lastly, Burleson Buzz. I use them a lot. They're a source of information for my little Burleson news updates, Burleson area news updates on the radio. And they had a real good article yesterday about how Holy Cross is expanding. They've been dreaming about going into, being a complete K through 12 school. And now they're going to start building towards that. They have I guess they got the funding together, and there you go. So they're going to start building a facility for high school.
Did they have the groundbreaking yesterday? Is that what I read? Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I'm excited for them. I wish my kids were younger, because I've heard great things about it, and I would have definitely wanted my kids to go.
Well, my kids did go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when they were much smaller, obviously. There was back then, and it was pre-K through 5.
Okay.
And they were meeting at what is now that funeral home that used to be the Episcopal Church, and now it's a funeral home across from the early college campus.
On Johnson?
Yes. It's something in Blessing. Lucas
it's
and
just
Blessing.
Lucas now.
This Lucas. Okay, Blessing took off. I don't know.
It's actually, I didn't know Blessing's actually a family.
Yeah, I did.
I didn't. So Lucas and Blessing, it's the same company.
Yeah.
But now the names are Alvarado. I learned that the other day because I met with other people.
How about that?
On prepaid funerals, believe it or not.
Well, no, my folks have prepaid plots and funerals, and my wife
I was learning.
My wife wants me to do that. And I'm like, well, it's not so much that, we don't want to think about the future, or, we dread it or anything like that. It's like, okay, we got these other things. And I'm sure this is what you encounter with Roots and Reflections, because, people really don't want to think about into life planning that often, because it's almost like admitting that we're mortal or something.
Yeah.
Is that how it works? So why don't you tell us,
Is that your last one? Is that your last?
Yeah, that's the last one.
Oh, yeah.
How did you get involved in this? And you can tell us your background, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Just let's have it.
Okay, no problem. So many of you know me from Harvest House, but in the last November 21, my mother passed away after a battle of 8 years of cancer. And then very shortly after that, in 22, my stepmother entered hospice. And then in 23, my father suddenly died in July, and my stepmom passed away in September. And so within like 20 months, I lost 3 of my parents. And that was really life-changing. I think losing one parent is life-changing. And losing 3 just changes who you are. And I just found that people don't want to talk about it. People don't know how to talk to you. People don't talk to you. People, and I know a lot of people have lost parents, and, everybody, like some people take it easier than others. I did not take it easy. I did not at all on any of them. I was super close to all of them. My stepfather's still alive. I still, but all of them have been out of state, and maybe that's part of it.
Is it Alaska still?
No, he's in Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah. So, but there's all sorts of emotions and stuff that go with it. And then the other part of it is like, what do you do? So they were such different scenarios. My mom had worked in life insurance most of her career and had all of her stuff in order. Everything was smooth. Nobody had to think about prepaid plots. Funeral was planned. I mean, like everything was done. After that, I was like, yeah, my dad still hadn't finished his will, and my stepmom hadn't done their will. So they were in Alaska, and so I was doing a lot of flying back and forth to help them with Legal Shield, and I had Legal Shield to get my will done. Not that I had done it, but I was like, I got to get them ready. I watched how smoothly it went with my mom. And so I learned from that. My stepbrother had lost his mother in another state, and I watched how complicated that was. And he told me a few things, and I was like, I got to get this figured out. So I went to get my parents' will done, and we got it done in January of 23. And my father, like I said, suddenly died in July. We hadn't been expecting that. I figured they'd probably go together because they were sort of that tight-knit kind of couple.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect him to go first. And so we did get everything done. He passed away. I was able to get all of their assets while my stepmom was still alive, moved into mine and my brother's name, because I knew to do it from watching what had happened with other people. And I had 6 weeks and I didn't know I had 6 weeks, but it turned out I had 6 weeks to get things done. And I was in Alaska for a week, doing my dad's memorial, doing all that stuff, I'm in networking groups, and I'm going to be honest, like that saved me. Like I learned so much from title companies and realtors and roofing people, and you don't think about it. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I'm going to call my title. I know that when we had a title company, they said whatever about things. And I've sold a couple houses too over the years. And so I went and talked to the title company. I'm like, what do I do with this house? Because I was trying to prevent probate, because I had heard Alaska's always 100% probate state, blah, blah, blah. I didn't really know what that meant because I didn't really know what probate was at the time. I just knew it was expensive and long and nobody wants it. That's all I kind of knew. So we went, I got their house set up on a quit deed. So my stepmom actually, while she was living, transferred the house to my brother and I, got all the cars, vehicles, and they had a lot of cars, trailers, boats, property, all that. I got all put in our name. Like really fast. And so when they actually did pass, things were in order. There were still some things that could have been done better, things that I wish I hadn't done that now I know. And I'm like, people just don't know. And so I'm like, my stepmom actually said one day, she goes, have you ever thought of doing this for a living? Like here she's on hospice. And I was like, I loved it, except for I was trying to do a full-time job at Harvest House, and I loved that job too. But I was like, it was too much. So I was overwhelmed, but I was like, I really do like this. And so what I did I did resign from Harvest House, and but about that time, even before that, I started selling Legal Shield just kind of as a
Mm-hmm.
side thing to help my family and friends get their stuff in order.
Yeah, I bought some from you.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
one of your first customers.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I bought it because uh, it is like an insurance policy. It's kind of one of those things you hope you never really need it,
Yeah.
but I also wanted to have the ability to call them, get legal advice instead
And
of paying a lot of money per hour. I've already paid for it in a sense.
absolutely. And so one of the things is my stepmom, she had life insurance, and I could not. She was on home health for her hospice, and I could not get them to pay the $20,000 out of her life insurance policy that was hers that would pay. And like the home health people were just about to quit because I mean I was behind on payments. I'm like, she's supposed to have the money. Well, I finally remembered I had Legal Shield and I reached out to them, and literally within 7 days I had the money. I was like, wow. So that was really the first time I
Hmm.
used them as a service. And I have since then talked to Legal Shield a lot, and they're 24/7. And I literally was like, I've called them at 11:30 at night and somebody answers my question. It's wild. Um, but having all of those things, it made me passionate. And so Legal Shield is a portion of my goal, of my business. It's not the whole thing, but that's the way I help people get their wills, power of attorney, end of life directives. And so I've also started a chaplaincy internship to learn a little bit more. And that I have already learned so much,
Where
even
is this
about
chaplaincy at?
Hughley.
Usually, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Yeah.
So it's a 3-month program. I technically started 2 Mondays ago, but my first on call is this Sunday. So if you're in the hospital at Hughley, I'll be the chaplain on Sunday.
Oh, that must be a hard job, though. I mean, you're
Yeah,
talking to probably people in a great deal of emotional distress.
we'll
And,
find out. It's my first day.
oh boy.
But it's just I've been volunteering at Gateway Hospice. I've been doing some things like that, and it's been really good. So I just think that we just don't know. So Legal Shield is prepaid legal. You may have heard of PPLSI before. They changed their name. I don't know when, but the founder died in 1999, I believe. And I think that after that, or maybe it was 2014, but I think they may have changed the name to Legal Shield after that.
Hmm.
So whenever I want to introduce it, it is prepaid legal. And yes, I do make money off of it, but I just promise people I'm never going to oversell what you need. It's just,
Right.
I'm here to help you afford what you need. And they have 3 different levels, and, they have a lot more with small businesses and all that stuff. And I'm happy to help people with that. But my passion is helping people be ready, and Legal Shield, a lot of people are like, because it is an MLM, which is ironic because it's been around for 50, like a multi-level marketing.
Right.
I'm just going to address that out there. Like, I've tried to do those things before and been like, this is not sketchy. This is so legitimate. This is, they're backed by Fortune 500, Consumer Affairs, Law 360. And if you don't know much about like Law 360 and some of those Forbes, those are really legitimate organizations. And if they're backing you, there's something like going on.
Well, I bought Legal Shield for my children, and they're like, I don't need this. And I said, really? And I was talking to my son, and lived in Missouri. He was having issues with the landlord who was not taking care of the lease obligations. He's letting things not get repaired. And
Yeah.
I said, you probably would have been helpful if you had somebody in your background there to, make a case for you. And you always have an attorney do it. It seems to get their attention.
It
Plus,
does.
plus he said, well, he's 32 years old. And he says, do I really need a will? And I said, as long as your mother and I have co-signed some of your school loans, absolutely you need a will. And so
Yeah.
Jack Matson
Mhm.
got him hooked up. And same with my daughter.
Good.
My daughter, I don't know if she has any direct need today, but it's like one of the things that you don't think about need until you need it.
Well, you got to
You
think
know?
about it. So I did the math yesterday. It's like
Mhm.
$425, I think, some $400-ish to pay for a whole year. Plus, you get like a 20% discount if you pay for it annually. I mean, that's like 2 calls to a lawyer. I mean, a will is going to cost you $2,000 to $4,000 depending on who you use, how complicated it is. And you think, even if I pay for this for 4 years, it's
Mhm.
still not going to cover. It's more like the cost of what a will would cost just to do by itself with a lawyer
Mhm.
is about that price.
Alex Phillips is watching. He had a big
Hi,
successful Project U
I'm
on
so
Tuesday.
sad. My first one I've never been to. That really made me sad.
Yeah,
I heard it was amazing.
everything is scheduled on Tuesdays, and I always have classes on
Mm.
Tuesdays. It's like, come on, Alex, next week, call me before you schedule it,
Maybe you
okay?
need to call in sick to teaching.
No, I'm too much of a dedicated educator to
Yeah,
do
he
that.
is.
Yada,
Yeah.
yada, yada. But anyway,
Hi, Alex.
but that's the thing about it is young people in particular, they never think of these things because
No.
they think they're going to live forever and all this other stuff. And then it's like insurance. My daughter has life insurance. My son is going to get it, but he's like, why do I need it? And I said, son, you need it now because you can afford it now
Yes.
and that kind of thing. And it's the same thing
And
here.
it's going to build in value if you get the right kind and all that.
Mhm.
And, the thing is, so Legal Shield was created to, I've got some quotes here because I like
Mhm.
them. A better world where access to justice, security, and is equal for every human. And the guy who founded it, you may have heard it before, but he had a car accident back in the 60s. He was an insurance salesman and lost a ton of money and stuff for an accident that wasn't his fault because he had to pay for his lawyers. And he won, but he lost so much money. And, that's what happens. Even if you win, you kind of lose. And so having a lawyer already in your pocket, and that's when he started it. And so the idea is that it's really about justice and equality for everybody. Because for anywhere from $29.95 a month to $50, and I hate using those numbers, but you can get what you need. I mean, they now cover trusts, revocable trusts, help with probate, planning,
Mhm.
all of that kind of stuff. And it's takes away some of the power from people like, I don't like lawyers, I don't trust them, that kind of thing. But it puts the power back in your pocket. And
Yeah.
I've used them a lot. I mean, I know some people say, well, I've had bad experience. You have bad experiences everywhere. Somebody has a bad experience with someone because we're dealing with people. So you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater, if you will. It's
Yeah.
just and I like that Legal Shield is really if you have a problem, let us know so we can fix it, talk to them, whatever. Because customer service is an issue. We all have bad days. Some people shouldn't be doing their jobs, whatever. But
Well, it's interesting to me because like what did Will Rogers says, you know, you never think you need one till you need one or something along those
Yeah.
lines. It's like, no one thinks they need a lawyer until they need one.
absolutely.
On our end of life planning for Robin and I, because unfortunately, I had a friend die suddenly, and I don't know what the status was. I think he had taken care of business. He worked for the railroad, and I think they kind of help you along with their planning and stuff like that. As far as I know, his widow, who was a good friend of mine, was well taken care of. But the suddenness surprised all of us because he was 2 years younger than me at the time,
Yeah.
and so Robin and I got serious about getting a will, and so I contacted an attorney in Fort Worth who was a former student of mine. And I'm not going to tell you what she charged me, but it was more. But I know she was cutting me the good friend discount kind of thing. So it was cheaper than probably what normally would have gone. But because, we'd known each other for so long, I got that kind of discount. But it's still, we almost had to insist she take more than what she was going to charge
Yeah.
because, we wanted to do the right thing by her. And she got the whole will put together, and it's sitting in a file in our fireproof little box there.
Right. And the thing is, have you gotten it updated? Because,
Mm.
people don't think okay, did you move to a different state? Because different states have different laws. And so
Mhm.
if you move, oftentimes you have to update your will. I've got this I love this. It's called a plan giving guide. And it was just so here's some people who didn't have their wills when they died.
Mhm.
Princess Diana, Aretha Franklin, Prince, the singer Prince,
How could they not have a will?
Amy Winehouse, Jimi Hendrix,
Well, I could see Jimi Hendrix, but
Sonny Bono,
really?
Martin Luther King. I mean, those are some big names, and they did not have
How
their
could-
things in place. And so, go ahead.
Princess Diana, how could she not have a will? I figured,
She had
Yeah.
a letter, and there's letters that you can do, a letter of instruction, which is good to have with a will, so that if you pass away, your family knows what your intents were for
Mhm.
different things. Because, and they even say if you have a will, write something out that like, yes, I really did this, sign it with your name. So if you have children who might argue, and so I've learned a lot about like probate and stuff. Like if you don't have a will or not an updated will, so if you're and you don't have updated beneficiaries, your ex-wife from 2 or 3 I mean, I'm not married, doing that, but
Yeah.
a lot of people have like kids. And I was even talking, so what I learned, kind of switching gears, at the hospital, we were talking about DNRs, do not resuscitates.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people who have them, but what I learned is that if you have a DNR, once you're admitted, so like you go through the ER, that DNR is in place. But as soon as you're admitted, it's a whole different game and you have to have a new DNR. So if you don't have a medical power of attorney and somebody doesn't ask, which they probably won't because they're busy saving your life, do you have a medical power of attorney? Anybody, I mean, who makes that decision is crazy, because like if it'll first be the spouse and then it'll be a child. And if you have like 6 children and like they don't agree, or they're all 6 of them have to be part of that decision-making process. And so then if they can't, then it goes to like the process can be really crazy. So it's not just having it, it's making sure your family has a copy of it, making sure your doctor has a copy of it, making sure your family asks about it and refers it. So your power of attorney financially, as well as your medical power of attorney, are so important. Anybody over 18 years old, because you are an adult, should have at least a medical and financial power of attorney in the event that you are unable to function. So you're going off to college. You don't often think about like, what happens if I end up in the hospital? It goes down this crazy list of who can help you. If you've lost your parents, I mean, you can have people you don't even like making decisions for you. And it's true.
I mentioned before the show, my dad 10 years ago created what he called the bucket book, which is just a white binder. It has all the passwords, where the accounts are, all the signed documents, who to call, here's where the prepaid funeral is, all that business. And my sister and I share some of that. She has the power of attorney. I'm like the
secondary.
Yeah, secondary, and it's not just power of attorney, but also I'm the one that could get into the bank, the accounts, in the safety deposit box. Whereas,
So you're the financial power of attorney.
yeah, but my sister really handles most of that because she's only 2 minutes away from them in Corsicana.
Well, my brother and I
Yeah.
were both on the power of attorney. So like if I wasn't able to, he could. And there were times he had to use it to go to the bank and deal with stuff when I couldn't. And so it's good to have multiple people, because what happened, like my dad and my stepmom, they're beneficiaries. They had each other as their beneficiaries. Well, that creates, if you don't have secondary beneficiaries, it creates a whole different thing, because your beneficiary will always supersede your will. So like, let's say you have life insurance and your wife is your beneficiary. So this is what happened with my dad. Well, he didn't have a secondary beneficiary and he died before her, and then she passed away. So it goes to the estate. So then you have to have a tax ID for the estate. So any money that came for that has to go to the estate. And so I had to set up a estate for each of them, because their beneficiaries weren't really up. Yes, they had them, but it was each other. And so it really didn't help when both of them passed away basically at the same time.
I have my children as secondary beneficiaries.
And that's good. But most people don't even think about it. I mean, my stepmom had put children on her beneficiary for her life insurance. Well, we are not her children. We're her stepchildren. She didn't name us. And I guess you can do that. I thought that was weird. So I talked to a life insurance person about that. You need to make sure that they're listed. You can do it because
That's odd.
Let's say I have a child, but I may have more children. So instead of listing them specifically, I just say children. But if they're your blood children, not a big deal. It would have worked. But we're not. We're stepchildren. But we were the only children she had. And so because I had the power of attorney, well, the power of attorney doesn't work after you die. But because we had the will, because all the things were in order, it took some time, but we got through it.
It's interesting because, on our will, we listed our children and gave them their social security numbers and all that. And so, very specific about
Every
who they
state
were.
is different. So that's the other thing. You need to make sure you have an updated will in the state you live in. They live in Alaska. So Minnesota is different. Texas is different. So if you move out of state, you need to make sure you update your things. There's just a lot of, and when she set it up, the rules may have been different.
Yeah. Well, this was well, I'd say about 2014.
Okay. I don't know
Yeah.
when she set hers up.
Yeah.
Hers was probably in the 80s, honestly.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, she probably put children because she was still wanting to have her own children, but they never did. And so, because I had asked her, I'm like, how do you not have names? And they're like, that's not uncommon. But especially if it's stepchildren, it creates a whole different thing. And even with legal children, we have a whole policy that helps with blended families and how to set up the things, but you want if you need a trust, not everybody needs a trust. Some do, depends on your assets, your financial power of attorney, divorce papers. So here's the other one, the DD-214. Oh my gosh, this is a funny story. So my dad was
that's military discharge, right?
It is a military discharge
Yes.
paper. And so my father, he was discharged military, but he was civil service for his career. So then he worked for the Air Force after he got out of the Army. And I was trying to do some paperwork for him. Oh, it was for his last payment of something, but I needed his DD-214. So I was going everywhere trying to get this. Well, I went to his house. He had a stack this big, but he was in Alaska, remember? I couldn't just access it. Nobody was looking for it for me. I kept asking about it. They're like, yeah, I think we have some. Well, my dad sort of did what your dad did, and it was just all of his stuff was thrown in binders in the safe. It was awesome. So even though it wasn't organized, I could find it all. But I didn't know about it after I had been trying to get his DD-214 by myself forever, and it took hours and months. And then I go to his house, and he has a stack because they had ordered them. And he had two, because every time you re-enlist, you get a different DD-214. So that was something I didn't know either. And so I found both of it. There's just so many things. Like if your parent was military, you need to know. We actually ended up losing some, and it frustrates me. Sorry to anybody who may be offended by this, but the government took my dad's last paycheck because they had sent a letter to my stepmom the day after he passed. Well, she didn't open her mail at the time. It just sat there. So I knew it was coming. So I talked to everybody, got it filed. I filed it in mid-August when I finally got it all figured out. The money came in November. They didn't cut the check till November 9th. Well, my stepmom passed away September 18th. And that check is technically for her. So they literally took it out of the bank account. And the thing that upsets me about it, just because I'm going to do a little politics here, is that I told people, I'm like, I'll donate all of that to a veterans organization. But my dad was a Purple Heart, 3-time Purple Heart. Hey, Jeff.
Heidi Ho
I was
neighbor.
talking nice
Sounds
about
like,
you.
was it a show, not Last Man Standing?
It was just 'cause you said it,
Home
too.
Improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty sure that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Looking over the fence, except for he's on the other side. But yeah, so the government took it back because the timing was wrong. And so if you have people who are military, they can take it out of your bank account. So then the bank account was negative $2,000, and I had paid for their funeral with it. So it wasn't like I spent it on anything fun. But I'd said, it frustrated me because I'm like, I can donate this, but my dad was a Bronze Star Medal, 3-time Purple Heart. He earned that with his blood, sweat, and tears. So literally.
Yeah.
So and then he had PTSD really bad. So his whole life he suffered. And I'm like, I'll donate it somewhere. But I think we need to know what we need to do so that you can get all the things your family member has earned if they're military. And I didn't know this either until it was too late. So here in Burleson at the sub courthouse, there is a veteran service officers. There's 2 of them that office in there. They are amazing, so helpful.
Where are they at again?
They're inside the sub courthouse. Here
Okay, I didn't
Elk
know
Drive.
that.
I didn't either. And so I had been asking for help, and I kind of found them a little bit too late also, but they helped get all the paperwork in for my dad's funeral. It was so nice to have somebody to help me.
You know, another good group in town is the American Legion with Sandy Mason. They help with people in this situation, vets or maybe the widows of vets or whatnot, widowers of vets, to come and who don't know how to navigate all this, and they will help them, start, finding their way through all this jungle of paperwork and
I think
bureaucracy and whatnot.
I guess that's the point. Is there are resources out there, but you got to access them immediately,
right?
Because if you wait too long, And I'm not being greedy. It's
Mhm.
just like I literally know my dad's life. I know what he went through. I've read the stories about why he got the Bronze Star. That $2,000 was his.
Where did he serve?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Okay. I know exactly where my dad's DD 214 is. It's in a safety deposit box in a bank. And, because he was very adamant that survived him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just I thought at the time it was because of, pride kind of thing. And, I didn't realize till later how important to have that document was.
It really is.
It wasn't just a
I hadn't
matter
even
of service.
heard of it. I hadn't even heard of it before my dad passed.
I had heard of it because he showed it to me, but I didn't think about it. He's like, well, that's nice. You got your discharge papers. And I didn't
Yeah.
realize later, just with that document, you can access things a little easier. He wants to be buried. He didn't need military honors and all that, but he wants to have a flag and all this other business.
Mhm.
And that's what the American Legion provides. But as far as, going through that whole thing, my parents, they're in their 80s, and my mom's recovered for health. My mom had a bad case of the flu, and when they're 82
Mm.
years old and they have flu, you always think, is this the one,
Yep.
right? And my dad's physical health is okay, but he has bad dementia. And so that's why my sister has the financial power of attorney. And my mom is okay with that.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. This is kind of off the topic a little bit. But, the problem in my parents' situation was my dad handled everything, right? My mom, it wasn't like my mom just went and spent. She was very frugal and all
Mhm.
that, and, she had the budget and she took care of it. But dad took care of all the financial arrangements, paying the bills, taking care of the mortgage, blah, blah, blah. And then when he started slipping into this, she had assumed that at age
Mm.
79 or something like that. And it's a real burden. So my advice is to kind of keep your partner there and on board with what's going on,
Yeah.
so they know where to find things. And so, and I always joke, Robin's never going to leave me because I know all the passwords. But,
Well, I think that's, I
Yeah.
know it sounds silly, but it's
Mhm.
not. I mean, people's choices in
Mhm.
passing, because I think my dad had some decision and some control over his suddenly passing.
Mhm.
He got sick in June, and I think he was like, I'm not doing this without her. He knew she was going. He knew she was going quickly because she was on hospice,
Mhm.
and she was the one who took care of everything. I mean, he was a very strong, independent man, and I think he just could not imagine living without her. And so he sort of declined treatments and things like that, stopped taking meds, and it was his choice. And I think there's some dignity in that, in saying, you know what, there's no hard feelings and stuff, but people make different choices at end of life, and sometimes they can make people angry, but like, you have to understand where they're coming from, and
Well.
that's where when I've been working with hospice, I mean, I kind of laugh at this. I think it's okay to share. But I had been visiting someone, this is a couple years ago, and they were really opening up to me. They were on hospice, really sad, sharing all kinds of, talking about mom and talking
Mhm.
about all these relationships, and would cry. Well, it disturbed the spouse. And so the spouse basically fired me. Because a lot of times spouses and other people can't understand what they're going through, or want to be in denial about it, or don't want them to be upset, not understanding that's healing. And there's no judgment. I mean, from me, like, even
Mhm.
as the volunteer, because grief is so deep and it's so different, and it affects you in so many different ways. And that's what's drawn me to this. Like, I know how
Mhm.
it changed me. And I mean, I know we're a little bit off topic, but we're on topic. I mean, this is what I want. This is what Roots and Reflections is all about. And that's where the reflection part comes. It's like, I'm going to start doing classes soon and having some group meetings, like probably at Daydream, here in the next few weeks.
Good
Even.
place.
I know, I love that place, and I love Pook, and I love
Pook
all
is
of
a
them.
former student.
Oh, really?
Yes.
She is
I walked in,
awesome. She's
about 2 months ago, and get some coffee, and she goes, "Hey, Mr. Allard." I'm like, "What are you doing here, Pook?"
She's like, I own it. I
Yeah.
love them. I mean, they are just,
Yeah.
she is, I don't really know her. I met her daughter once, but she's just such a
Yeah,
sweet lady.
They're
and
a good family.
they really are. And I just enjoy her so much.
And they also own that tie shop right next to it.
And they own
Pandit.
Burley Birds.
Do they really? I did not know that.
Burley Birds, the 2 Pandans, the one in Crowley and the one in Burleson, and then Daydream.
Well, they're just entrepreneurs. When you're done, I want to give you a scenario that's a real life scenario.
Okay,
But
I'd
you,
love to.
but it's your,
Yeah.
it's
So,
your time.
anyway, I just think when we're talking about end of life, we've got to have the conversations. We have to have the conversations with our family. I went through 3 very different scenarios. My mom was battling cancer, so she was in, at least externally, and I think she kind of was internally, denial of how bad she was, because she had stage 4 ovarian cancer and she lived 7.5 years after that. That is unheard of. I mean, granted, she went to the Mayo Clinic. She was right by the Mayo Clinic, so she had amazing treatment. She had some extra opportunities. But on the Saturday before she passed, I'll never forget. It was because, I mean, we've been like, she wouldn't talk to us. She wouldn't, she's like, I'm going to beat this. It's going to be okay. And that Saturday before, she sat there in her little walker and looked at me and goes, I don't think I'm going to make it this time. And I was like, I don't think so. I mean, it's almost hilarious, but like we all saw something that she finally accepted. Well, then 7 days later, she was gone. And that's why I think she fought so much. But the thing that happens is you don't always have the conversations you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard for the person left behind. But just like we make choices, that was her way of beating her disease. And she really, I would say she beat that disease. She lived, and she was not in a lot of pain. She slowed down a lot, but she lived a very full life. She kept volunteering. She kept walking, even though her walk got slower, things like that. But she kept living. My stepmom entered hospice. She and I had all kinds of conversations, really deep, good conversations. And then we had my dad, who died more suddenly. But the last time I saw him, he always used to do this. He was sitting at the table. I can just imagine in my head, probably nothing to you guys, but he's like, what I know is like to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And it was just like, I was like, he's going. And that was 5 months before he died. I just sat there and he did that. And I was like, he's ready. He was ready to be with Jesus. And so, but again, didn't have some of the conversations that maybe I would have liked to.
I don't know what that is out there.
It's weird.
It is. It's Jonathan. Who cares?
Okay. But anyway, so, there's such different scenarios. People choose death in different ways. And so I became an end-of-life doula last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what that is being able to have conversations. That's where some of these groups come. I'm finishing my biblical counseling certification and then the chaplaincy and then the legal shield. And so it's a lot, but it all just supports each other in being able to make sure families are making the right decisions.
Well, this is what I was mentioning earlier,
Yeah.
this scenario. My wife, her parents are in the same condition my parents are in, but they're in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they've taken care of some things like the land that they live on. They live on 20 acres, and it's already been deeded over to Robin and her 2 sisters. I know that's been done. You're making me think I got to make sure that they've done everything that you're talking about, according to North Carolina law.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about people their age, it's not like your situation where they were in hospice. They're not like that. But then again, they could be like my grandmother who was 82 and just didn't wake up one morning, which a lot of people say, well, that's the way to go. But okay, fine. But I'm just saying she went to bed. Nobody was none the different. And then one Sunday morning, I get a call from my dad saying your grandma passed.
Yeah.
Just like that. She just didn't wake up. And then my grandfather died pretty soon after that, because you know how that works, right?
I do.
Yeah.
My grandparents, my dad, my stepmom.
Yeah. They just, after the spouse goes like, well, my partner's gone.
Yep.
I'm done.
They're so connected.
And I, and I don't want to end up like my great aunt, because she lived to be 103. But that last decade was rough. In the last 3 years, she hardly ever got out of bed. And that's it. It's just like the body
quality of life.
No, it's like
and value.
The heart just didn't get the memo that everything else is going.
Yeah.
And so, but that's another story. But you making me want to go home after this and say, Robin, you and your sisters sat down at the table with your parents.
Now, so is her mom of sound mind?
Pretty much.
Because
she's 82.
Well,
but she's not been diagnosed with dementia.
My point is, so after a certain point, they can't sign the paperwork. They can't get things in order. It goes to the government, basically. because
Yeah.
decisions like this need to be made when somebody's of sound mind. Even as a chaplain, we can sign off on a lot of these things, but we have to decide, is this person of sound mind or not?
Mm-hmm.
So
You
it's
know,
really, I mean, that's a really important thing, and I know Amber talks about this some from Harvest House, but her son died suddenly at 26, 27, and that happens. And my husband, he's 50 something, he's mid 50s.
you don't
and
remember how old your husband is?
I think he's 57. But in the last couple of years, he's had a lot of friends die.
Yes.
And it's like, you would consider that super young. And
Mm-hmm.
first of all, just a couple things. Make these
Mhm.
decisions while people have sound mind. Look at them every year. So like with Legal Shield, if you get certain plans, you can update it every single year, or at least you can look at it and make sure that it's still accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to make sure that your beneficiaries are correct. Check on it every couple of years. You want to make sure that all the things are in place and that you can make those decisions, because when it comes up and you can't, and anybody over 18 should have a will, because they will technically have an estate, even if it's $1,000, if they have a bank account, like there's all kinds of things. Their social media, you can't close that stuff down unless you can prove that you're somebody.
I've seen that on Facebook where people
Cell phones.
I know that are passed away still have active pages. I'm like,
If nobody
Yeah.
can access it, then it's just going to be there. So,
mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things and a lot of concerns that you really need to have it at every age, because the power of attorney, the will, things like that, you just don't know what could happen, and you just want to make sure. So my kind of catchphrase is, planning for end of life so that you can live intentionally,
Yeah.
because then you don't have to worry about it. You can live and go, you know what? I've got that stuff in order, and I can just live.
You mentioned about people thinking they're going to live to be 90. That's no guarantee, right? I've had 3 friends I graduated high school with, good close friends, that passed away. Cancer. One
Mhm.
had a stroke, and I had a couple of guys I went to college with. One was like a year older than me.
How old are you? I'm sorry.
I'm 63.
Okay.
I
So
will
you're,
be.
so you're young.
63
I
in
consider
June.
that very young. And so,
Yeah, and this one young man was 2 years younger than me. I went to college with, and he passed away of cancer. And it's just even if you don't visit or correspond with them daily, even if it's kind of a while between get-togethers, it still kind of sobers you up. Because I remember this one young lady, that beautiful young girl that I went to high school with, and she died of cancer,
mhm.
and she left behind some daughters and some grandchildren. And another one is probably my oldest friend in a sense, and she married a friend of mine, and she died suddenly 15 years ago.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say. If you have
Yeah.
kids, you have to have a will if you have kids.
I
You just have to.
I never asked my friend who's the widower if they did, and it didn't really come up. It's almost like you assume people do
Mhm.
until they don't.
Well,
Yeah.
60% of Americans don't have one, and 90
I just can't believe Prince, with all that money he had.
90% know that
Yeah.
they need a will,
Yeah.
but 60% actually have it. And I actually I read it somewhere, a stat from a different source
Mhm.
that was 80%, 85%. So,
Mhm.
but really it's like 1 in 8, 1 in 10. You just start, I could ask
Mhm.
this room. Okay. I know you have yours, but
Mhm.
I don't know.
Josh?
Josh, do you have a will?
Working on it.
Yeah, it's another way.
After today,
yeah,
right?
After today.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you and I were
Okay.
going to talk. But
Yeah,
I
so
have it
if
correct.
you
I
go
have
to
it
my
correct.
bio link, if you don't mind putting it up, it's bio.link/roots and reflections. I emailed it to you, but if you're able to do that, it goes to Legal Shield. It goes to,
There we go.
there's my, I also sent a link. I don't know if you're able to post it. It was an email, but it's bio.link/roots and reflections, and is spelled out. Or you can go to my Facebook and it's all there. And it's just Facebook, Roots and Reflections. But there's also the knock box, which is called a next of kin box.
Mhm.
And that's what we're talking about. It's like your dad's
Bucket
binder.
box. Yeah.
What does he call it?
Call it the bucket book. So when he kicks
Kicks the
but
bucket.
kicks the bucket. Yeah.
It's basic. So the knock box is basically a bucket book. And you can get anything from like this whole huge thing. I'm helping somebody put theirs together. And that's something I'll do. If you need help putting those things together, I'll come over. You can pay me to get the paperwork organized for you, because I know a lot of people don't have that time, but it needs to get done. And on that bio link, you can get that. They go on sale every once in a while. But even if you just get the very basic one, it has little tabs, things like that, that will show you, what you need to do, passwords. Oh, you said something about your dad's passwords. Has he not changed his passwords in 10 years?
I seriously doubt it. He,
Okay.
because
But I mean, those are things.
yeah,
You probably, okay, I have my passwords there. Okay, but they make you change them every 5 minutes. So like that may not, making sure those things are up to date.
He
too.
doesn't have a lot of social media presence,
Okay.
to say the least.
I'm more thinking about you.
Yeah,
So
most of the stuff, when they, we talk about bill paying. My mom handles that now, and all that. And I have, in my own situation, I have a list
Good.
of passwords, and I don't save it on my hard drive, because you never know, somebody hack into it, whatever. It's literally written in paper and pen, and so we keep up to date with that. Of course, it's like 4 pages long, right? It's bewildering how many passwords you have to keep up with.
Yeah.
And
so now they have like this. So the other thing with Legal Shield, if somebody's interested, we have ID Shield, which is $9.95 a month, or I'm sorry, $12.95 a month, or something like that. I just got it recently, and I love it. So my phone right now is on my personal VPN. So my computer, if I use it on a public network, is on a personal VPN. And certain places don't have secure networks, and it'll be like, get off this immediately. I mean, it will tell me, there's one place I go all the time, and it is like, get off this.
Like a Starbucks kind of place.
Well,
or
yeah. Starbucks is fine, because if you have to sign it, and this is, I'm learning all kinds of things, but with like Starbucks and stuff, you usually have to have a password from them, and that secures it. But like, there's places you can just go and like get on their Wi-Fi without any thing. That's so dangerous.
I never do that. Actually, I'd never look up like my bank account or anything's significant when I'm like sitting in a restaurant.
But that's why
like that.
this person. So on the personal VPN, it's secure now, and so I love it. And it protects me. And then if something happens, it will actually go and they will repair it back to pre attack. And right now, I just had my husband and I both had separate credit cards compromised, and it's just like, wow. It happens.
It's happened to me
somebody
a couple
went
times.
to IHOP for $90. I'm like, if you're gonna crack, into my credit card, why don't you go somewhere good? It was in Brooklyn, New York. I'm like, I haven't been there.
Yeah, I had one that went to Coach. The luggage.
See, but at least they're going for something good.
But
they
got it denied. But
okay.
but a couple times we've had our credit cards hacked, and I have a pretty good credit card company with USAA, and
that's good.
And I also have a couple other cards that the first thing I ask about criteria is, loss prevention and hackers. We're running close on time.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a couple of things, then I'll let you finish off.
No problem.
You were a fan of this radio station, or you want to throw that up there, Josh? The 88.3,
Yes.
The Journey. It's a good friend.
I am a supporter of them. I don't tell most people who I'm supporting about this business. I think it's significant. I think private radio is important.
Well, that's I had breakfast with them yesterday. Our BNI meeting got canceled because I'm on. The avalanche was coming, and
I'm so glad school didn't get canceled.
Yeah, no. Funny story about that
Sorry.
a month ago is that they canceled it and nothing really happened. And Dr. Jimerson, I saw him at a committee that we both serve on, and boy, he said the phone was ringing. But anyway, 88.3, The Journey will be and has publicized your appearance here today, as well as.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the kind of agreement we're doing.
Cool.
So, I make sure everybody knows he's not playing the show. They're not a talk show. They're a radio station, right? They play music, Christian music. But they also, our relationship is that I do a little of this for him. He does a little of that for me. He says, here, this week in Mr. Allard's neighborhood, we're going to have you, and we had Amber and Garrett on Monday. Next week, I'm going to make sure I don't mess it up, but next week I have Mr. Hooper himself on Monday.
Nice.
And then also Colin Gregory with the police.
Oh, good.
That's always a great show. And
you always have all my friends on your show, so it's really fun to like listen. I know, but like that's one of the things I like about 88.3. They are community focused. They don't. They're never going to be across the entire metroplex. They are about Johnson and Ellis County, and really Johnson County.
Johnson, Southern Tarrant County, bits and pieces of other counties.
Yeah, and it's like
Bill and Ellis and whatnot.
legitimately, that's why you hear like Lisa Schwartz on there now, because they are about supporting local stuff.
Right. And
Sorry. I
so
keep taking over your show. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, it's fine. And so the relationship with community radio is this show will be on community radio tonight at 6 and tomorrow at 1:00. And, I've been kind of messing around with the music. I had 2 hours this morning and yesterday of summer music, just because it's so cotton picking cold that, Beach Boys and, Sly and the Family Stone, Hot Time in the Summertime, Hot Fun in the Summertime, whatever. Just fun songs like that to kind of get our mind off, the weather. And it's brick by brick going and going. Also, I want to kind of plug a new sponsor. Jerry Cavanaugh helps people get onto Medicare. He's a Medicare counselor, and he's going to be beginning Monday being a sponsor. And so it kind of ties in a little bit with what you do. Because
I'd love to meet him. Seriously.
All right, well, then I bet that could be arranged pretty easily. Y'all could get together. He's at Daydream. That's where I met him yesterday.
Oh, cool.
And it just, you don't think about it, but there's a lot of trap doors dealing with Medicare. And Robin and I are a couple of years away from that. And from what I understand, it's difficult. And he gets paid by Medicare, you don't pay him a fee. Medicare pays him. And so he's going to be on the show in about a month.
Cool.
So there's some crossover there.
Well, and for me, like with Roots and Reflections, it's important to have resources. I'm not going to be an expert in everything. Like I've met with Lucas Funeral Home on prepaid funerals and learned about some of the value and the why and all those things. And
well, I'll put y'all together then. I'll send him, I'll tell him that I have his contact information. Anyway, so just check in the community radio. I'm building it brick by brick. It's not like the moment I opened it up, it went viral, but it's slowly, and it's going to take a while. And I understand that. I wish it would go viral, but I'm not unrealistic.
Yeah,
changing listening patterns for a lot of people is not easy. But so far, it's slowly building.
Nice.
And I'll be satisfied with that.
That's really good.
Why don't you finish this off? Tell us what we need to know.
So, there's a few things. I would love to meet with people who just want to talk. I am not a high pressure salesperson, but I am going to offer you some opportunities. If you're interested in helping others, I do have the opportunity of you becoming an independent associate. It's very inexpensive, and you can be very casual. I'm actually looking to add 2 people this week. I know that's really fast. I'm just being transparent. I'm in a competition and I want to win, and I got to add a couple of people to my team, but I love it. I'm super passionate about it. And it's fun. And I know helping people I just love it. That's what I do for a life. And I also am available for speaking engagements if somebody wants somebody to come and talk and, just do a little bit deeper dive into grief and the whole journey of other things. So if you need me to speak, if you want me to just come and talk to you, and, if you need somebody to just kind of figure it out, if somebody's passed and you're like, I have no idea what to do. I do offer services for a fee, but it's not break the bank fee.
Yeah.
So but I really want to be there to help people, because if you can not have to worry about some of this stuff, I want to help people get through it.
Where can they reach you at?
They can reach me at Roots and Reflections ELP. That ELP is End of Life Planning. So Roots and Reflections ELP at gmail.com. I tried to shorten it, but there aren't any others available.
And is A-N-D, right? Not the ampersand. Yes. Okay. Roots and Reflections, ELP at gmail.com.
Yep. So,
do you have a website?
It's the bio.link /Roots and Reflections. I do have a Facebook page. The website will come later, but right now I have the Facebook page. It's Facebook /Roots and Reflections. And you saw my logo. Look for that.
Do you work out of your home, or do you have an office?
I do work out of my home. I work out of Daydream a lot.
Yeah. A lot of people do.
I really like to meet people.
There's 3 places I do business at, and that's one, Autos, other 2 places.
Yep. I will go to people's homes too. I've done that quite a bit. I want you to be comfortable wherever that is. I can go to the library. I mean, there's lots of places out there to go.
Well, and Camille has that hub if you ever needed like a temporary space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, I would ask, how is she doing? She's doing better.
I've texted her a couple times, but
Yeah, but she's
short response. No.
Yeah.
I just am praying for her and her recovery, and I do wonder how she's doing.
Last message I got from her daughter was that she's making improvements, and she'll be back in in society pretty soon. But they're not pushing it that hard.
Well, you shouldn't stuff like that.
No. But like I said, next week I have Rich Hooper and Colin Gregory, and it's going to be a good show. And and check out the radio stations. Both depends on what you're in the mood for. Christian music, 88.3, 60s through 80s classic music. Not classical, classic rock, classic disco. I don't know, pop, rock, whatever. I got talked into putting some disco on there.
Oh, yes, the Bee Gees.
Yes, thank you.
I love the Bee Gees.
Brandon Crisp talked me into that.
Good for you, Brandon.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. And Josh, take care of yourself. I'll see you probably next week sometime. All right.
Happy birthday, Taylor.
Yeah, happy birthday, Taylor. Send him happy birthday, and we'll see y'all next week.